Hello, everyone. Tom Fox back with another episode featuring our speakers for Compliance Week 2023. Today we have double trouble because we have Adam Balfour and Brian McAlhaney to tell us about their presentation. So, gents, first of all, welcome and thank you so much for taking the time to visit with me today.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks for having us.
So,
Absolutely.
could you guys both tell us what your current role is?
Sure. It's Adam Balfour. Brian and I both work at Bridgestone. My role, I'm General Counsel, Vice President for Corporate Compliance, and also Vice President for Global Enterprise Risk Management as well.
Yeah, and I serve as Associate General Counsel for our diversified businesses here in the United States, which includes a lot of different hats. In particular, it also includes some compliance roles and helping out and assisting with their needs in those areas.
I have to ask, Adam, where'd you go to law school?
So I went to law school. First of all, I went to a small school, and it was a wonderful school in Dundee in Scotland. The accent's still there. And then I came over here. I don't have a JD like the two of you, but I only have a master's degree. But I went to Harvard for that. But don't worry, Tom. They've apparently fixed their admissions processes. That the mistakes they made letting me in will never happen again. I've been reassured.
That's good to know. Gentlemen, you guys are speaking at Compliance Week 2023, and I was wondering if you could tell us the subject matter of your talk and then maybe a teaser or two for our audience.
Sure. So I'll tell you a little bit about our talk, and then I think Brian will give you a few teasers. So really, Tom, what we've been looking at for the last few years is training and communication is something that the Department of Justice talks about, and that the evaluation of corporate compliance programs. We have been thinking that we need to look past that. We need to rethink training and communication to look at learning and engagement. We've all sat through trainings that don't result in learning. We've all received communications that aren't engaging. So even last week, I was in an airplane and they were doing the just-in-time safety training. And I was one of the few people, partly out of politeness and partly because it's appropriate safety training, but everybody else had their headphones on, looking down at the screens, watching their devices. But that's training that doesn't result in learning. So how do we rethink this? How do we take a different approach? And once we start thinking less about the intent and much more on the impact, we can be a lot more creative in how we approach this. And Brian, you can share a little bit if you want about what are some of the creative approaches that we've taken and we're going to be talking about at Compliance Week.
Yeah, so Tom, we'd like to push on the nostalgia aspect a little bit. So taking stories back from our childhood, in particular, things that we really cared about. So the first three sessions that we've done over the last 3 years have focused on Star Wars, Jurassic Park, and Top Gun, especially after the importance of the movie from last year. So utilizing kind of those stories, the pressures, all of the different items that are within those movies, and we can pull such great compliance topics out of those things and be able to have teachings that really resonate with the folks that we're talking to. So it's a nice panel discussion where we really dive into those things. The panelists really love those movies, and honestly, so many of our teammates do as well.
And the cool thing about this, or what we find effective, is I think to a lot of people, they know ethics and compliance is important, but also ethics and compliance, you can just feel like a scary and abstract concept. So how do we use things such as the adult learner theory, movies that people know, and we can just draw upon those lessons and we can just put it in a way that people can immediately understand. They're very relevant topics. But what Brian has been able to cover in the course of an hour, if you're to take a much more traditional approach, it's going to be hours and hours of dull PowerPoint training. So it's a really effective, engaging way in which we've really been able to help people learn about different topics.
So, gentlemen, for our final question, I wanted to ask each of you what you hope to achieve, or maybe why you are excited about attending Compliance 2023, Compliance Week 2023 this year.
I think for me, Tom, one of the things I'm most excited about, not only the content, I think they've got great speakers, great topics, but really it's just to connect with people in person. I think we've got such a wonderful community in the ethics and compliance community. And also, frankly, to meet you in person. I haven't actually met you in person before. That'll be good to do.
Yeah, and for me, as someone who kind of dives in so many different areas of the law, it's really nice to just have current trends, things like that we can take back with us to ensure that we're hitting on all of those hot topics when we get back to work.
Gentlemen, I wanted to thank you again for taking the time to visit with me, and I'm looking forward both to seeing you next month, but also at your panel. It sounds really interesting. Thanks again, and see you next month at Compliance Week 2023.
Thanks, John.